You know that here at the Tough Love Mom Co., we're all about consistency and long-term sustainability in your journey and your habits. So how long does real change in your habits actually take? I'm about to blow your mind, Mama. Let's talk about it. Hey, Mama. Welcome to the Tough Love Mom Podcast. I know you're here because you're ready to get consistent and finally lose that weight, and you're not afraid of a little tough love. You know what to do to lose weight, but following through on those things feels impossible. You wish you could just feel like your strong, confident self again and want to be a good example for your little ones, but you get thrown off by mom guilt and the unpredictability of motherhood. It's frustrating. Taking on your journey postpartum is hard, but it's not impossible. Hey, I'm Liz, and I've been where you are. I gained a lot of weight in my pregnancies, 90 pounds and then 60 pounds. I needed to lose that weight to take control of my health and honestly just wanted to feel like myself again. With a sustainable approach to weight loss, simple consistency, and working on my mindset, I lost it all in just over a year both times. And I'm here to help you do the same. I believe that we have an ingrained ability to figure out what we need to do, make it happen, and do it in a way that awes the world. If you're ready to stop falling off the wagon, create solid routine and healthy habits, and finally feel your best inside and out, all while enjoying dino nuggets on your salad, you are in the right place. We're about to transform your journey, my friend. Get pumped up. It is tough love time. So a few months back, I did this poll in our Tough Love Mom Squad, which is just our listener group on Facebook. Head on over there, join in, so you can be part of discussions like this. But I posted in there and I asked, how long do you feel like it really takes to get disciplined and never fall off the wagon again or fall off the horse? Like, basically, how long do you think it takes to get to the point where you're disciplined and consistent enough that you just don't fall off anymore? Most moms had this answer: 1 to 2 years, if ever. If ever. That really stuck out to me. And I think why that was the theme is because there's two approaches to our journey. One path is well paved. It's the one a lot of people take. And the other path, you kind of gotta have a machete to cut through the grass because most people don't take it. The first approach is that all or nothing approach. Something that we know logically is probably not the way to go, but so many people do it. And it seems the easiest when you just look at it on paper, or when your planning brain or the brain that goes, I just want to feel different, takes over. We take the all or nothing approach. The other option, the one that's a little, less of a beaten path, is a slow, one habit at a time approach. In my world, the starting point process is what we call that. And that's what's taught in Starting Point School, which is open for enrollment right now, just FYI. And a huge part of when you reach that fork in the road and you go, am I going to take the all or nothing approach, which I want because I just want to change right now. I want to feel different. I want to lose weight. I want to be healthier. Or you want to take the other path, the one that is harder, takes longer. You're not going to see results right away. You hit that fork in the road. A huge part of that point in your journey is mindset. So I'm going to go on a planned little tangent here for a second so we can compare and contrast these two approaches. Okay, let's first talk about being disciplined and consistent and what that actually means, because that was part of the question I asked our listener community. And I want to point out the fact that being disciplined and consistent is not the same thing as being perfect. So I wonder if some of the moms who responded with 1 to 2 years, if ever, who said that because they aren't willing to give up that flexibility. They want to be perfect at it. They want it to look like this ideal picture in their mind of working out and eating well. They don't want to have to figure out that balance. Not that you don't want to figure that out, but you don't know how. So I'm going to let you in on something, because I'm not willing to give up that flexibility either. I like to be able to enjoy my life, but also experience the fruit of discipline, which isn't always comfortable, but the outcome it produces feels a lot better than, the quote hangover moment of giving in to temptations and then feeling bad about it like an hour or two later. So let's talk about discipline real quick, because the definition of discipline or being disciplined is simply a controlled form of behavior. You can still enjoy certain foods, but it's not because you're emotionally eating or you're lacking mindfulness around nutrition. It's a controlled form of behavior, right? Discipline, it's making conscious decisions, having control over your mind, over your thoughts, and ultimately over the decisions that you make. It's not letting circumstances control you. That's what discipline is. And if you can get to the point where you're disciplined, aka not letting circumstances or emotions or feelings or impulses control you, you're disciplined. And yes, you'll have moments where you're weak and you do give in to those impulses, and that's not bad. But it's a lot easier to hop right back on, not the wagon, but to the way you just show up in the world, when you give yourself over to this long-term process of making one change at a time, because then discipline becomes a lot easier because it's foundational. It's become, you become part of showing up that way. I think falling off the wagon happens because we lose control of our emotions and our thoughts and all our decisions. And it becomes easier to give in to impulses and just to give in to, I'm just feeling this way, so I'm going to do this, and reacting instead of intentionally and consciously responding. So how long does it take to get to that place where you can have control over your behavior, when you can respond instead of react, especially when it comes to choices around your health? Okay, results happen fast with the all or nothing approach, right? Like if you were making one of those T charts and you're like comparing and contrasting, when it comes to all or nothing approach, you're going to see results faster for sure. Like that's a fact. So if you want that and you're cool with like the roller coaster and you like ride that roller coaster like a pro, go for it. Go for the all or nothing approach. No hate. Just doesn't work for me. And I know it causes a lot of frustration for a lot of moms. So in my opinion, it's not worth it. But you're here to listen to that. And thank God for free speech. And I can say that. So, after a stretch of time, you've got that all or nothing approach. You're going to get faster results than taking the starting point process road that, builds one habit at a time, and you're going to see results a lot slower. But all or nothing, after a stretch of time, sometimes even as long as a couple months, if you're lucky, falling off will happen. It's inevitable. It's too much effort to sustain and actually adopt multiple changes at once. Like think about it in the context outside of your health and fitness journey. Let's talk about it when it comes to big life changes. Here's a great real life example from my life. We moved at the same time that we went from Cal going to daycare twice a week to not going at all for like 8 months. So move across country, changing the whole like childcare situation, climate change, not in like the environmental sense, but like we went from the desert to the southeast. So we went from really dry to really humid. Our home gym was not set up. So talk about having to adapt to all those changes at once. My life got like thrown for a loop, and that's just a couple of the changes. That time change, that's another one. That was like a full 2-hour time change that we were dealing with. It was a lot, and it threw me off completely. It ended up impacting some of my habits around my health and fitness for a couple weeks there. Intentionally, I made changes on purpose, but like I was not going to be able to sustain the pace at which I was showing up in my journey, having to adapt to all those other changes at the same time. Like it was nuts. And I'm just now 6-7 months post move feeling like I'm getting back on my feet again with everything, and not letting stress, to be totally honest, have such a hold, because it did for a minute there, because it was a lot of change to deal with and adapt to. Now, going back to our health and fitness journey, apply that, trying to make changes in all these ways you've been doing things at once. That's a lot to take on. That's a lot for you mentally and emotionally and tangibly to change. So when you're on this all or nothing approach and you do that and you make all these changes and then they get too hard, you can't sustain that effort, and you fall off. That cycle gets repeated. And yes, progress might visually be seen, but inwardly, you're never actually changing habits. You're just white knuckling these changes for as long as you can, seeing as much change as you can, and then letting go completely until you can grab on again. That's exhausting. It really is. And I can only say that from experience because I did that for years. And it gets exhausting. It really does. And you do plateau. Like, yeah, you'll see progress, but you will eventually plateau. And that's frustrating too. That's why there's a handful of episodes about plateaus in here, because your girl has had them. And I know many, many moms face them, and they are flat out frustrating. So you want to lend yourself to that? Go for the all or nothing approach, but not worth it. Not worth it, even though it does happen faster. The starting point process timeline can range anywhere from like 3 months to 9, 12 months even. But after that, real change has happened. Now, will what your journey looks like ebb and flow depending on the season of life that you're in? 100%. Absolutely, yes. It should. It's not like you're just going to be on this upward trajectory for life. That's not realistic. But what's going to happen is as you change a couple habits at a time, when things do come up, you're not going to fall off completely. You're not letting go of your nutrition to the point that you lack all discipline around whatever your crutch or craving is. We talk about this in starting point school. It's called your baseline, and how in the starting point process, you incrementally increase your baseline. So when stuff does come up, instead of falling all the way back to square one, you're falling back a couple notches up because you have raised your baseline. And that takes work. That takes a lot of work. Like, think about your endurance. If you're wanting to train for a marathon, but you haven't ran a 5K in like 5 years, it's going to take months to build your endurance to the point where you can tackle a marathon, right? Most training plans are about 4 months long. And that's usually for someone who's been running. You're not just going to go wake up one morning and run a marathon. I mean, you could. You're probably going to end up with some stress fractures, a lot of nasty blisters, and probably some other injuries too. With the sore muscles, you'll definitely bonk around mile 20. Now, if you incrementally increase your endurance, your baseline endurance over time, it's not going to be as difficult for your body to adapt to those 26.2 miles. The same thing goes for your habits. That same incremental increase in what you can tolerate and sustain increases over time as you take on and change one habit at a time. And it's a beautiful thing when that happens. You become responsive to your season of life. You can plan ahead better. You can take into account circumstances and adjust and not feel like you're constantly overwhelmed and stressed because life has this hold over you. You have a hold over your life and your journey. You don't just react and then end up frustrated weeks or months down the road because you went off the rails with your habits. You're able to pivot when you need to. You're able to adjust and adapt without the feeling of guilt. So timeline, yeah, it probably feels like never falling off the wagon again isn't possible because the approach that you've been using has been unsustainable the whole time. So in that case, if you're constantly taking the path of all or nothing, the answer for how long it'll take for you to get consistent and disciplined and never fall off the wagon again, the answer to that is never. It genuinely is. But how long does it really take to get disciplined and never fall off again? If you do it the right way, 3, 6, maybe 9 months. Based on the foundation that you've laid thus far, that kind of is what determines how long it will take overall. But girl, that's less than a year. Where could you be a year from now? How cool would it be if you leaned into the right process, the right approach for the next 2 to 9 months, so your journey could finally become sustainable? Think sometime between end of summer, so right now it's May, so think sometime between like August and the end of the year, the holidays, you could finally be off of that roller coaster, checked out of the amusement park, off on your own path, living your life, living your best life. Even keel with your habits and consistent in how you approach food and your physical activity and your routine for good. I can still remember the first holiday season personally that I went through where I didn't come out the other end in January 10 pounds heavier and frustrated because I was yet again controlled by the ample amounts of food and sweets around me on a daily basis. That was 2019. And it was transformative. So think about it. It's May right now. What if you leaned into the starting point process, took starting point school, gave your all to it for the remainder of the year to the process? And if this was the first holiday season, 2023, that you weren't controlled by all those outside factors, your schedule being thrown off, sweets being all around, you were still able to enjoy the holidays, but not feel thrown off by it at all. Like actually walk through it confidently, feeling good about how you're fueling your body, not feeling guilty about not working out on certain days, but still moving your body and being happy about the fact that you're doing that. I know I'm getting ahead of myself because it's May and I'm talking about Christmas. Who doesn't love Christmas though, let's be honest. But if you take yourself through starting point school right now, like early summer, you will be going strong by Christmas, and living healthy will become part of who you are. What if that could be you? What if that could be your story this year? Who doesn't want that? Man, like 2019, going through the holidays that way and being able to approach every single Christmas season since that way feels so good. Feels so good. And I want that for you. Yes, May, we're talking about Christmas. I will not apologize for that. But I want you to think about that. Think about it over the next 24 hours. Startingpointschool.co has all the details. Go look it over and make a decision one way or another. Is this going to be the year you continue taking the all or nothing path? That is a cycle. It is a roller coaster. I can guarantee, because I've been on it for years, I can guarantee it will be a frustrating cycle. If you haven't reached that point of frustration yet, you will get there. Or will this be the year you decide to take the less beaten path? Is that even the phrase? Unbeaten path? Less beaten? I don't know. But which one are you going to take? The one you always take, or the new path that will guarantee lasting change in your habits and how you show up? It will make you feel different this Christmas season around your health, around your nutrition. So much more confident. Which one do you want? Which one are you going for? Startingpointschool.co has all the details. You can go get enrolled there today. My hope is that you choose the best path for you long term and make that choice today. No doubt, no hesitation. I'll see you in Starting Point School. Before you go, thank you for spending this time with me on the Tough Love Mom podcast. If this episode encouraged you in any way, the number one way you can thank me is to leave a review letting me know how the show has impacted you. Then send this episode to another mom friend, or take a screenshot, post it on social media, and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me on this journey to impact thousands of moms. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you, sister. Until next time, get after it.